We are live.
How you doing, Andrew?
Fantastic. Mr. Lucido, Paul, thank you so much for joining us again in our journey of being comfortable with being uncomfortable. Thanks to our good buddy Jay Doran and his book, 30 Days of Thought, and his movement, the Culture Matters movement. So if you're watching this and you're not familiar with what Paul and I are doing, we're taking 30 Days of Thought, and this is a first book of its kind, where it's about reading, writing your thoughts about what you just read, and then recording a video about it. Paul and I have been kind of digging into this, and have been having a lot of fun with this. So today we're going to be focusing on the chapter Exponential Growth. Paul, you and I were going into this a little bit before I hit the start broadcast. And as always, you're going a lot deeper actually into Jay's passages than myself. But you're the thinker. You're the one actually who I think you read like a book a week, it seems. But tell us actually, what's your perspective on the exponential growth passage?
Sure, and just for the record, I don't read a book a week, but thank you for that. I wish I could. I actually know a couple of people. Both their names are Bill, happens to be, and both of them could devour books literally in their sleep. There's another guy I know by the name of Bob. It's interesting, Bob, Bill, and Bill, Bob, and Bill. They all are readers. So all right, so let's go into this a little bit. First of all, I just want to set the stage on this. Jay Doran wrote this as a passage. There is a passage to get out of it. But before we even dig into it, I just want to address exponential growth because I know it's a terminology that's used a lot, in business, and people say it just kind of in vain as a filler word. But there's a lot behind what exponential growth really means, and really in an effort to really understand it. And even myself, even though I have some sense of what it is. We all know that it means rapid growth, more and more rapid in terms of the actual growth, but it's also relative into proportion to where it's growing toward. And then when that actual growth actually occurs. So what I mean by that is, I saw one video where a guy used a test tube. He was a scientist, and he says, I'm going to put some bacteria in it. And I know that by noon today, it was 8 o'clock in the morning, by noon today, the test tube is going to be full. But as the bacteria begins to multiply initially, it's at a very slow rate. And before you know it, as it multiplies and then multiplies again and again and again and again, it begins to kick into a point where it begins to experience exponential growth. And in less than by the halfway mark, it's well over halfway in growth. And so exponential essentially is when something occurs more rapid than maybe what you had preconceived it to be. So now let's go to Jay's passage. And again, I might be a little bit off on that, but that is my essential definition of exponential. When something goes exponential, okay, relative to the rate, to the overall number or size, okay? So Jay says here, growth itself is not a linear process. It may not happen today, and it may not happen tomorrow, but all great fears are worth striving for. A lot of people expect results as they go about their day. He talked about that we have a hidden garden of potential. As we water it every day, expecting a result, we only create disappointment for ourselves. True, because you're standing there, you're waiting for something to happen. It's not going to happen right away. You can't give up in your dreams. You can't give up in what you're striving for. You need to stay with the program. It may take a lifetime. My brother-in-law and I were just talking the other night. We had a great conversation. It was kind of fun. And we were talking about the fact that you never really arrive. We're always arriving, right? But you never really arrive. perhaps maybe in the very end, we don't know. But again, this kind of goes back to what we discussed on our last book review about carpe diem, about seizing the day.
Yeah.
I feel like this all ties into that.
Mm-hmm.
So by seizing the day, having the mindset, over time, you eventually will experience some exponential growth. All of a sudden, it's all going to come together. All these little bite-sized actions you've been taking eventually are going to begin to multiply. Let me give you an example in drag racing, just really quick. In drag racing, sometimes you have two cars at the starting line. One car takes off and gets the dig. They get the whole shot, and they literally are up in front. The other car is not quite as quick off the line, but through torque multiplication, multiplication of the engine's RPMs to the transmission, which develops torque through, in this case, a torque converter. He begins to multiply the torque, and at the very end, I mean, literally at the very end of the race, he ends up winning the race. That's kind of like exponential growth. Does that give you kind of an idea?
It does.
I'm using it in
yeah.
gearhead language. So anyway, I think
Great
you know that
analogy.
I'm a car buff, buddy. So listen, why don't you kind of tee this up now? Let's get Andrew's philosophy on this, and then I'll kind of chime in.
So I look at it this way. It's kind of not being focused on your overall growth, because initially your day to day, little by little, having some micro growth is going to be something that it's going to be difficult to measure. And I believe actually before you can get to that point where you have that exponential growth, your day to day, you need to find some kind of measure of your incremental accomplishments. If we're in the sales business, and we know that for us to get to 20 loans a month, we know we have to lead up activity to get to that point of 20 loans a month, because we're right now only doing 4 loans a month. That's an exponential growth from 4 to 20.
Correct.
You need micro measuring, and one of the ways you're going to micro measure that is how many times you're dialing the phone. And if you're if you're only doing 4 deals a month, you're not making enough phone calls. So I believe actually, the way to get to that exponential growth and not be discouraged by the initial work of not seeing the production output is by having those micro measures. And while compound interest is not the same as exponential growth, but I look at it somewhat similar because it's a phenomenon that happens. Einstein, I think, calls it like the 8th wonder of the world, compound interest. And compound interest, when you look initially at your let's say money or whatever numbers that are in a chart, initially it's not exciting, but you look 20, 30, 40 years down the road, and that compound interest is this beautiful thing that happens. And it's, again, just kind of making sure that day to day you grind, knowing actually that you're going to hit that final goal of exponential growth. There's going to be a powerful tool that once you hit it, you're just unstoppable.
That, you know what, and I'm really glad you used compound interest as an analogy, because that actually crossed my mind as well. I think what you said kind of explains it out. But what Jay is basically saying is don't give up. In other words, you're not going to see those results right away. So through some of the demonstrations we're giving here, the examples we're giving, literally, one car versus another car, within a certain period of time, all of a sudden, car number 2, who started off a little slower, actually had experienced the exponential factor as it got toward the end of the race, right? All of a sudden, it just swelled up and came on. And so it happened does that you kind of know where
I
I'm
love
going
the
with that?
analogy. I really do. That's great.
Okay. Well, I'm just doing it for just lay person. I'm doing it for myself. I'm the lay person. Let me be really clear in this
I'm the layperson.
conversation.
Let me take the title of layperson here, please.
Anyway, so this is fun to talk about. But it's funny. Now I'm going to speak for the company I work for, and I didn't want to go on here. We obviously know I work for PRMG, and
We love PRM.
PRMG. Yep, I'm going to give them a little plug. We've been in a contracting market, as we all know. The market has been contracting anywhere from 30 to 60%, give or take. And a lot of great players have been falling off the map, which is unfortunate. It's odd and ironic, if you will, but PRMG, for example, has been experiencing some level of growth that speaks to brinking on Exponential. We've been growing at a very rapid rate. And I think and again, that's kind of what happens. Now, you still kind of got to look at it as what is the target that we're looking for? Where is the destination, and where is it along that path that we're actually experiencing the exponential growth? When you're not paying attention to compound interest, you're right. All of a sudden, you wake up on one day and you go, "Holy smokes, what happened?" The question is, when did it happen?
Yeah.
Right. But if you're too close under the microscope, day by day, like you said, it could feel like a very slow process. It could literally almost make you want to give up and go, you know what, this isn't working. I always say, the pot of gold could be around the blind curve. You don't know it's there. And because you just finally gave up at this point, it was just right here, just around that curve. So your goals, per se, or whatever it is that you're pursuing in one's life. So I think if I really get Jay, and believe me, the way he puts this stuff, I love what he said, and water it every day expecting a result. We only create disappointment for ourselves or over ourselves. He's right. I agree with him on this. Personal growth takes a lot of time. It does. It takes a lifetime. We're all still growing. We're all still learning. We're all still becoming comfortable with being uncomfortable. There's always something, so that's what I like about what he says. Now, the fear part, can we go there for a minute?
Sure,
What he
yeah.
says about your fears, do you think he means like facing your fears? What is it that we're fearful? It says, but all great fears are worth striving for. That's interesting.
Yeah.
We've got a little bit of time. What do you think that means?
So I'm we all have, a fear of success, because there is an unknown. So it could be just that fear of growth. Where we know we're comfortable where we are today. We're comfortable doing our 4 loans a month today. But what happens actually if we're doing 20 loans a month? Think of actually how busy you are when you're doing 4 loans. What's going to happen actually when you hit that next level? It's going to be, it can be scary. It can be a scary thing. And I think that, maybe it's talking about that. It's just the fear of also just failure because you don't know where you're going. You don't know, like you're just keep doing the grind, keep making the phone calls. And, are you making this for no reason? It's, I could be talking about that. What's your thoughts about,
Yeah, you know what?
your
That's
perspective?
I like the fear of success and your analogy. I know where you're going. In terms of doing loans, there's a point at which you hit and you go, holy smokes, how am I going to support this business now? How am I going to be able to respond to every customer with exceptional customer service as I'm being inundated, deluge literally, of loans coming in? And every lender out there listening wants to be deluged with loans, right? We all do. Let's be honest. You know what I mean? You want a flood of loans coming in. But then the question is, can you hack it? Can you handle those loans? Can you respond? Can you grind them out, get them out the door, and get them out timely? Within 21 days, 14 days, or whatever the goal to be set is. Fears. For me, when I read that, I just started thinking about things that I tend to shy away from, things that I'm not comfortable with, and I feel like as I get older, I think that facing your fears is very, very important. And knowing that, you know what, and once it's like you're having a bad dream and just standing up to whatever it is in your dream and facing it. They say to do that, when you're a child, you're running from the monster. When you're an adult, you're facing it down. And then you find out there is actually nothing there. It's kind of an interesting thing. But for me, I think the message as I look at it is, you know what, he says, fears are worth striving for. The hidden message to me in there is it's probably something that's going to be highly beneficial for you in the long haul. And therefore, don't shy away from it. Rather, run it down. Run after it.
Yep.
That's how I read that. And I'm sure everybody's got their own idea of what that might mean. And, whether we're on the mark or not, I don't think that's for to be judged. I think it will mean something different to everybody. And I think that's what Jay's book is trying to do. It's just trying to get you to start to think it through. Now, I go back to earlier conversation. If you want to start to identify what exponential growth means or what the exponent factor is, there is a definition for it. But it's above most of our heads, really. So we got to keep this in layperson's terms, right? So that is my thought on exponential growth. Once again, thanks a lot, Jay Doran, for that one.
So, do you have, not to put you on the spot here, Paul, but do you have an idea for the next passage you want to cover?
I might. I'll tell you what. Let's see. I do. Hold on. It was here. It is. Wait a second here. Wait a second. I remember seeing it. Well, there's one that I really think would be fun to do. But I think for most folks, it was the one that had to do about the man that speaks is not. Let's see. Hold on, brother. I don't want to waste people's time on the phone. It has to do with basically. It has. I need to get to the. Wait. Let me get to the. We're killing our video here. It has to do with the man that speaks has nothing to say, really.
Man that speaks has nothing to say.
Yeah.
I don't think I did that one yet. All right, so listen, we're gonna get man that speaks. We'll figure it out. We're gonna cover it. So same bad time, same bad channel.
Yes, sir, brother. I really appreciate you doing this. And again, I think this is kind of fun. Hopefully, we're stimulating some good conversation out there. But at the end of the day, I just enjoy spending a moment with you.
Fantastic. We have two viewers. One's my wife and one's probably my dad. So we had three people. So my mom was on here, but she got off. So
it's all good.
Yeah. All right. Love doing this with you, Paul.
Talk to you soon.
Take care.